we do it is to go back to see the first time in the Torah that this name appears. Because that will signal to you what the name stands for and what its importance is. So therefore, if we go back in the Torah and we look for the name Shem, we'll find it by our father Avraham. The Ribono Shel Olam told Avraham Avinu, Lech lecha ma'artzecha moladecha mebeis avicha velo oretz asher arecha. You're going to leave Mesopotamia and you'll come to the land of Israel. So the Torah tells us that Avraham Avinu came to Eretz Israel. And where did he come to? He came to Shem. And the Torah describes Shem. They say, Mikedem, Miyom v'Kavai Mikedem. Beisel is west of Shem. That the city of Ai is east of Kedem, is east of Shem. And we're accustomed to Shem because the name of the prince who violated Dinah and was killed by Shimon and Levi was Shem. But it's not that the city was named after him, he was named after the city. The city was called Shem long before him. So Rashi there says, famous Rashi, why does the Torah bother to tell us where Avraham Avinu traveled to? And why does the Torah is not a tour guide? Why does it give us geographical locations? They say, Miyom v'Ai Mikedem. And also, all the Meforshim say, why did the Torah pick Har Gerizim v'Har Eival? Excuse me. The two mountains that are outside of Shem. There are other mountains in Israel. And if we wanted to find, so to speak, a more beautiful mountain for brachos. So you have like Har Tavor, which is a perfectly round mountain, gorgeous. And if you wanted an area for curses, you could pick the cliff of Azazel, a high place in the desert. What is the Torah telling us here? Now, we always have to understand that the Torah proceeds on many different levels. So the first time we learn it as children in school, none of these questions should bother us unless we're very precocious. The Torah just tells us where Avraham Avinu came to Shem. Rashi, however, in his brilliance, stops immediately and says, why Shem? Why didn't Avraham Avinu go to Yerushalayim? Why did he go to Beit El? Why did he stop at Shem? So Rashi says, based on Midrash, that Avraham Avinu was a prophet, that many things in the future were revealed to him, and that he saw that the children of Yaakov would have to engage in a war in Shem. Because after they destroyed the city of Shem, the neighboring cities gathered against them. According to Medrash, there were numerous wars. It was a very difficult time for Yaakov's family to survive. That's why Yaakov said that you have destroyed me in the face of the surrounding peoples, because they will gather against me to destroy me. So Avraham Avinu saw that, and he prayed in Shem that the children of Yaakov should be able to be successful in the war. That's what Rashi says. So the question naturally arises, many of them before should discuss this. There's a Sefer Mayan Ganim that has a long essay on it. What? That's what God revealed to him? Shechem is one of the pivotal cities in Jewish history. The Yosef HaTzadik is going to be sold because of Shechem. Yaakov told Yosef, go to Shechem and find your brothers. He meets the man on the way. The man sends him to where the brothers are. Boom. We're all in Egypt. Shechem is where the kingdom of Israel split into two. The time of Rechavam, the son of Shlomo, and Yerovam ben Nevat, who became the king of Israel. So that was at Shechem. The Gemara says, Shechem mokom musmon leperonios. It's not a good place. It's never been a good place. It still isn't a good place. No Jew will willingly, consciously, with intelligence, drive his car into the Kasbah of Nablus. So Mokom Muchen Leperonius. So if God showed Avraham Avinu what was going to happen in Shem, and Avraham Avinu prayed for the welfare of the children of Yaakov, why didn't God show him that they're going to sell Yosef in Shem and let him pray for Yosef? He should pick him up and turn him home. Why didn't he pray for the Jewish people that the kingdom should not be split? That somehow the two factions should learn to live together? There are so many things he could have prayed for in Shem. And why does Rashi, quoting the Medrash, insist that he only prayed on behalf of the children of Yaakov in the war that ensued after they destroyed the city of Shem? One problem, which I'm sure all of you have thought about before. Second problem, says Beisel miyom v'ai mikedet, by Avraham Avinu. Beisel was west of Shem, I was east of Shechem. So Rashi comments on I. Rashi says, because by I, the Jewish people transgressed the story of Ochon, that Yoshua had made a cherem that no one was going to take from the booty of the war in Yericho, and he violated the cherem. And because of that, when they attacked Ai, which was the second city that they besieged and eventually conquered, there were casualties. At Yericho, there were no casualties. You go to war, we always factor in that there are going to be, God forbid, casualties. And factor in who the casualties will be, but there are no clean wars. But Yericho had a clean war. No soldier died. That was not true. There are different opinions in the Medrash. 36 died, okay, whatever. So Rashi there says again that why does it mention I Mikedem, that I was east of Shem? Because he prayed that the events that would take place in Ai would somehow be rectified and that the Jewish people would not have to die in wars. So again, the question is raised. So why didn't he pray regarding Beisel, where it says Yaakov Avinu dreamt the dream of the ladder ascending to heaven? So that's a better thing to pray for. Be mispalel that the Jewish people should follow the example of Yaakov and have a ladder ascending to heaven. Their Rashi is silent. The Medrash does not address that Avraham Avinu said anything. So the question arises, which is the question that the Meforshim raise. It's a simple question, but very complicated. The answer, if any. What did God show Avraham Avinu? What did he not show him? What's the measure here? Why didn't he show him these things? Why didn't he show him the positive things? Why did he show him the negative things? And why doesn't Avraham Avinu pray that these things should never have happened, rather than to pray that after they happen, somehow we should be able to straighten it out? Avraham Avinu should have prayed that Dino should never have been violated. The whole story would have ended. He should have prayed that Achan should not have taken from the booty, and the whole story of Ai would have been prevented. Didn't have to happen. So the Torah here is giving us an insight into the ways of heaven. The simple explanation that Meforshim say is that prophecy is flawed. Like the Gemara says regarding dreams. In Barbali Tevin. You don't have, I remember that when the OU We had the hechsher for Pillsbury flour in America, a tremendous manufacture of flour, baking and everything. And I was astounded when I visited the plants that 10% is thrown out. 10%. Because of the fact that you can't have wheat without chaff. So the same thing is true in prophecy. And that's why it says that Moshe Rabbeinu is the Av Kol HaNeviim. He's the greatest of all prophets. The Gemara says why? Because he saw things bas baklaya hamira. He saw it clearly. He did not have chaff with his wheat. All the other prophets did. Not perfect, it's clouded. So that, on a simple basis, explains why Avraham Avinu prayed for A and not for B, because he didn't see B. Or he had no prophetic vision regarding it. He was unaware that they were going to sell Yosef.
It's very hot.
He was unaware that the kingdom was going to split. And according to many Meforshim, he was even unaware of what was the cause of the war at Shechem. He was unaware of the story of Dinah. He only knew that the Jews are going to fight a war there. And that the war will be bitter. And so he prayed that somehow the Jews should be successful. But he was unaware of the causes, so to speak, of the antecedents to the war. What brought it about? And therefore, he couldn't pray for any of that. And the same thing by I. He was unaware that Ochon had violated the Cherem. He was only aware that in the war at Ai, Jews died in the war. And that's what troubled him. And that's what he prayed for. But he was not aware, again, of the causes. So that is one interpretation that we could take. But a broader interpretation is simply what we mentioned before, that Shechem is a bad place. And the Rebbeinu Shalom was teaching him that there are places in the world that are mokum muchon lepuronius, that somehow bad things happen. And that therefore we should be very careful and not to get involved there. So Yaakov should never have sent Yosef to Shechem. Because Shechem is not a good place. And later on, when Yaakov blesses Yosef, he says, Ani nosati l'cha Shechem echad alachecha. I'm giving you an extra portion, Shechem. Because Yosef had two tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, whereas all of his brothers had only one tribe. And that led to the split. And we always find the competition between Yosef and Yehuda, which is the basis of all competitions and disagreements in the Jewish world until today. It's hard to identify who is who, because it's beclouded by so many petty issues. But at the heart of the matter, that's the question is, which direction will the Jewish people go? Are we going with Yehuda, or are we going with Yosef? And two different worldviews, two different righteous people, and eventually it splits. So Shem taught us that lesson. Why is it a mokom muchen leparonius? Because it's a place of disagreement. It's a place where Jews don't get along. Where they fight each other. And the result is that that we only see the bad part. Eye is like iron with our eyes. You only see the evil that comes from it. And Beisel miyom, we don't see Beisel. We don't see the good part. You hear these polls. I don't know. Nobody ever asked me anything, so I don't know whom they're asking. But we see these polls about the problems living in Eretz Yisrael. It's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. The last question is, what do you say about your life in Eretz Yisrael? 80% say it's a good life. So how do you square that circle? So that's the problem of Shem. So therefore, Shem has these two mountains, Har Gerizim and Har Evel, mountain of blessing and a mountain of curses. And each one has its protagonists. There's 6 holy tribes on one side, and there's 6 holy tribes on the other side. And the Torah is in the middle, so to speak. It's neutral. And the choice is always ours. Which one do we want? And you'll say, well, no one wants really curses or evil. But the curses are, you will notice, almost secret curses. Or Asher Yaakov Chavero Baseiser. Doesn't do anything wrong. He just says something secretly, and eventually it'll cost the guy his job. Eventually it'll be a scandal. He said it secretly. But as we all know in our time for certain, but it's always been like this, there never is any secrets. There never are things that are hidden. And it says, Omar Kol Omein. He says, Omein on the curse. Yeah, I have to tell it. It has to be known. We want transparency. We want people to know the faults of others, especially of our leaders. We don't want to cut them any slack. So that's what Shem represents, and that's what Har Gerizim and Har Evel represent. The constant choice that we have. And the confusion that oftentimes we consider a curse a blessing, and a blessing a curse. We really don't know what's good for us. Who knows? Especially in such a confused time such as ours. So Moshe warned us about that. And he said, when you enter Eretz Yisrael, go to Shem. It'll clear your mind. It'll give you a vivid vivid realization of what really is. You'll be re-experiencing Avraham Avinu. You'll see things in a perspective that you didn't see before. But beware, because Shem is not a healthy place. It's not a good place for us. And the truth of the matter is we have not found any way of dealing with Shem at all. Every day something happens. That's Shem. What are we supposed to do? And on that is what Avraham Avinu prayed. That we should not lose the war in Shem. We can't know or prevent the story of Dino. We can't know or prevent the story of Ochan. We can't. That maybe is beyond us. But we can understand that we have to somehow win these wars. We have to somehow prevail. And that really would be the ultimate bracha that would descend upon Klal Yisrael. So next week we will still have a class that's Tzavim Vayelech, and then is Rosh Hashanah, and then Shabbos Shuvah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, the glorious days that are coming upon us. Kol Tuv Sela. Hear you. What?
You have one or two more books, yeah? I can get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get them. Oh, thank you. What's the title?
Shem. Kol Tuv Sela.
They do part two. 3 weeks ago, we did the solution.
So then let's do Simon. Please take care of this for me. Okay. I owe you a stamp. Thank you.
I'm going for a wedding next week.
Wonderful.
I gotta get more.
Look forward to seeing you all.
Coming home. I was talking to this wonderful.
Thank you.
I'll try to
Okay, be well.
Thank you very much.
Rock the smachot.
Amazing.
Have a good year. See you. See you.
In your health.
To all of them. Say a special hello to Aaron for me.
Yeah, he told you like I'm teaching history classes here also. So
Okay.
it's a concept. It's a big
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, I know. That's good. All right, good. Let's see.
Thank you very much. We will miss you our next.
Thank you.
But yeah, as long as it's. I said, let me get my to run. So, yeah, so good. And it's like a lot of bringing up. Like, squiggly. Yes, yes. Good night, the new intern.
That's why you made it. So you lost.